But what would you say is like one of the, or some of, or one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the world of design and architecture that you think most folks just wouldn't know about?
And I think it's honestly our own fault as designers and architects. It's our egos. We get so pompous, and the media feeds into it, and they put a lot of architects on the pedestal. I think that's a big misconception. I think a lot of people think there's a lot of math and a lot of science involved, but really architecture is kind of a blend of a lot of different disciplines. It's a blend of math, science, art, people, culture. And I think what makes a really successful project, at least for La Union Studio, is does the community see themselves in the project? Were they involved in kind of the planning and the design of the space?
Like the number one thing that we do as designers is listen.
Yo, what up, what up? It's your boy Rubino.
And this DJ in the building.
And you listening to the UpNUp Podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we doing?
I don't know, just listen.
Yes. Welcome.
What it do?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuning to the UpNUp Podcast on the UpNUp Network. I'm your host, Rubino.
And I'm DJ man.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. You know me.
Doing?
What am I?
Blessed, man.
See? I feel like this is too scripted now, bro. They know. But no, yeah, definitely I'm blessed. Always blessed. Feeling good. Good energy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the team. Everybody in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and this is your first time tuning in. Welcome to the show. As I stated, this is the UpNUp Podcast. This is the podcast where we're focused on cultivating culture, right? We do that by providing amazing stories of individuals, groups, movements, right?
Yes,
The hustlers, the shakers, right? People who are taking up space, breaking down barriers, not only for all of us currently here, but for the next generation, right? That's what we do it for. Super excited. Again, I'm feeling good. 2024. Right,
we here.
I feel like until January's over, we're just gonna keep acknowledging that it's a new year. That's my rule. I don't know, but yeah, I'm super excited, super honored. Again, we have some very powerful people in the room. Another unique journey we're gonna be able to share, right, and amplify. And today's guest is a super impactful, dynamic duo whose work is not only designing and reshaping our communities, businesses, but more so their stories and narratives. And the legacies that exist. They're definitely folks who are keeping everything they're doing on the up and up, right? To give a little more insight, today we're joined by the amazing co-founders and leaders of La Union Studio, which is an innovative, relationship-driven studio bringing authenticity through the medium of design and architecture, right? And just kind of keeping it on or going more in depth in terms of the impact of their work. I would say like in a world where, accurate representation is really scarce, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These two are definitely making their contributions and reshaping how this world will and should look, moving forward. And I think that's important. We're honored to have them in the building. Super honored, super excited. I feel like it's long overdue, but it's right on time.
Yeah.
Right
on time.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Our guest is none other than Sonia-Lynn and Sergio-Max Lagon Talamoni. Can we get a round of applause, right? How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Been a long week, but
Yeah.
grateful to be here.
Yeah. No, it's a pleasure to have you guys, man.
Pleasure to have y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the day going?
The day is going good.
It's the end of the day. It's been a week.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been moving into our new space in Mount Baker.
Yeah, congrats on that.
Yeah, we were building it out for the last 4 months now, so we're finally in there, like 95% done.
Okay.
But it's just nice to be out of the house.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. It's Friday. It's Friday too.
I got to put on clothes now.
I know. We got to get ready for the day.
Yeah, that's crazy. You put on jeans and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, hard pants.
No, we're super excited to have you guys. Thank you for coming and sharing your time with us. So before we get started, if you're familiar with the show, we start every episode with the quote of the day, right? Something to get the vibe right, get the conversation started. Brother man he's the man of the quotes. What you got for us, man?
All right. The quote of the day today is start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Who's that quote by?
Arthur Ashe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Can you run that back one more time, please?
All right. The quote is start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. What do you guys think about that quote?
It just makes me think about being present in the moment and not, you know, re- reflecting on the past, but also just being in the now and doing what you have or doing what you can with what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I agree.
And for me, it reminds me of it's never too late. That it's all a process and a journey, and that you can start today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, where you are is where you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
For real.
Be where your feet are.
Yep.
Definitely. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good. That's a good quote. So before we get into your guys' journey, obviously, like I said, this show, this platform is built on that, people's journeys and the paths they've carved. Like I said, it is the new year, 2024 is starting off. Last episode, we were talking about kind of what our 2024 mantras were, if we had any. I'm just curious, do you guys come into this new year, like, do you have something that is like keeping you like focused and some like maybe a mantra or a message or something like that?
I mean, definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, I think lessons learned from 2023 was, at least for me, was, you know, in this process of growing something that you love and something that you're passionate about, you can get swayed and pulled in so many different directions by so many different entities and energies. And so coming into 2024, I think, at least for me, I really want to be intentional about just setting boundaries with, you know, things that may, you know, get me off my kilter, or things that kind of, you know, derail me from my mission, our mission, and just putting as much time and energy and focus into those things. As much as I love, you know, people who reach out and, you know, try to seek advice and seek knowledge, I give what I can, and but sometimes it's a little overwhelming, you know.
Yeah.
So just being really intentional about who and where we go, who we decide to, you know, interact with. You know, I know who's in my corner. You know, my loved ones, my family, and we know who's been down since day one. So really want to put our energy into that and focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, this year is really doubling down on the businesses, myself, and really understanding like who I am, what I can give, and just being authentically myself. Because I think, you know, reflecting back on different environments that I've been in, you know, there's a lot of code switching. There's a lot of just, you know, thinking about what other people think about you. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I can just be myself in all different arenas and in front of different people, because now it's like our business. It's who we are. We built it for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. I'm here for me and for the businesses.
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
So I kind of want to take it back. If you guys want to touch on, you know, your upbringing, growing up in Seattle and stuff like that. So.
yeah. I'll go ahead and start. I mean, I grew up bouncing around South Seattle, splitting time between Beacon Hill and Tukwila. And I went to a small school in Beacon Hill called St. George, private Catholic school. And I think that really formed a great foundation for myself and my siblings in, you know, growing up in a very diverse neighborhood of Beacon Hill and you know, Rainier Valley, and spending my childhood there has really formed my sort of global perspective on the world and appreciation for different cultures, music and food and all that, and you know, comes with growing up in a very rich and economically vital neighborhood. And so I think that there's through lines in a lot of the work we do, from just my personal upbringing, and I'm sure Sonia's as well, and representation. You know, to your point, what the show is all about, I think, is, you know, reverberates in our work in wanting to make sure that, you know, the stories of our people in our community are being told, and told in a very authentic way. But continuing on, I went to Seattle Prep as for high school. I have mixed feelings about, just my experiences there, but I do appreciate the sort of educational aspect that I learned. And then I continued on at Seattle University. I studied humanities. And again, that kind of reinforced a lot of my, interest in, philosophy and culture and history. And I think that formed the bedrock to my, some of my foundation in architecture. And yeah, I mean.
Then you went to architecture school.
And then I went to architecture school.
Yeah.
I went to architecture school. I forgot to mention, my family comes from, I'm multi-ethnic. My mom is from American Samoa, and my father's from Cuba.
Okay.
And they met, randomly in Hawaii. I don't know how, but and I think, the cultural aspect is definitely something that has informed our work. Connections to culture and family, mentoring the youth is something big in Samoan culture. So, just trying to find opportunities to showcase that young people have the power to change their communities and impact their communities in a direct way through architecture and design.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, really important to what La Union Studio is all about.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Nice.
And it's homegrown. So how would you say, like, and Sonia, you can answer this too, like, how would you say, like, growing up in Seattle shaped you? Because, I mean, it's a totally different Seattle now than it probably was back then.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in South Seattle, went to Graham Hill, and we are now reunited, right?
Yeah.
And so, the diversity was just innate, right? And I think when I left Seattle, I went to, Graham Hill, to Mercer, to Franklin, so homegrown. And then I went to the Bay for college, and I think that was the biggest culture shock that I've ever had, is going to University of San Francisco, where it was not diverse. I mean, higher ed is obviously very limited, and, certain people have access to that. So that really kind of shaped, like Sergio said, my understanding of the world and wanting to be in places that were more inclusive. So finding community was really important for me. And so that's why I came back to Seattle, because I couldn't really figure out where I fit in the Bay, in San Francisco and the East Bay. And so I made it back, and now we're here. We started a business in 2018, La Union Studio, where we focus on interiors and architectural design. And now we're back in the community that we grew up in. We, were able to acquire and build out our space in Mount Baker.
Yeah.
So now we're imagining, our studio as like a cultural hub, a place where community can come and learn about design. We're right by Franklin, so hopefully we can have like students intern.
Yeah.
So that's big for us. It's like full circle.
Full circle.
Kind of
yeah,
crazy.
that's literally what I was thinking.
So
As you both are talking, I'm like, this is definitely a full circle moment. Touching on the cultural and just kind of the ethnic aspect, I'm curious, like, for you both, like, navigating and balancing and embracing, like, your own heritage and culture while being a first generation and trying to kind of find your way. I feel like, most all of us in here are first generation immigrants. So, like, what was your guys' experience with that growing up?
I think for me in particular, growing up in South Seattle, obviously is a very diverse community, but then going to a school like Seattle Prep was, predominantly, wealthy and predominantly white school. And so that was definitely a culture shock. A lot of code switching, as Sonia mentioned, a lot of deferring to, other people, and just being out of your comfort zone, and not really knowing who you are, or being in a place that you can really be yourself. And so I knew that I didn't want that, leaving. And I wanted to find pathways and create a way for young people that look like me and talk like me and come from my cultural background to really flourish and learn how to operate in a world that's predominantly not for us, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for me, luckily, Seattle has a big Filipino American population. The Bay Area does as well. So that was very comforting to find that down there. And so I think with social media now and with just the internet, we have access to seeing more professionals in the industry, which is tight, and they're within the same generation as us, because the architecture and design industry is very white, very male focused, and so having access and visibility, and having that platform to showcase who we are, is really tight, because what did we have before? Like the internet, websites.
No, that's real.
Yeah.
Exposure is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For real. I'm curious to know, were you guys always kind of like, did you guys kind of always know you guys were going to do something within architecture and design, or was there like other interests you guys were in? And like, if so, like, how'd you guys make that pivot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I can go first. I always knew I was creative. Like, I always gravitated to arts and crafts, just like things that you could work with your hands, colors, textures, people. Like Sergio mentioned, like humanity, like humanitarian side of things. But I never really knew how that could translate into a profession. Because being a Filipino American, the pathway is like you go to nursing school, right? Or you do something in the medical field. And I tried that. I mean, I applied, and then I was like, took my application back. And then I was like, maybe I should go into teaching, because I like, the influence I can have on the next generation. And then I was like, I'm not doing that. And then, randomly someone was like, there's an architecture program at USF. And so I was like, let me go and see what that's all about. And I just kind of like really, it clicked. Everything. I was like top in the class, like first semester in, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And it was nice because that program was geared towards community development. It was a program called Architecture and Community Design. So essentially we would partner with a lot of nonprofit organizations, the school would, and basically do pro bono work for these organizations in the city. So that kind of got my mind like, oh, I like it. I like designing at this scale. And then I decided to go to grad school because I wanted kind of bigger picture. I did a master's in urban planning, so city scale, and then kind of building scale, and then people scale. And it just all clicked. So that's how. And then I worked public sector, which I was like, let me just do what I need to do, like get my, W-2 job and insurance and benefits. And I did that, and I got there, and I was like, this is not it. Like, I'm not fully fulfilled creatively, because I was working on like capital civil projects. And then we started La Union on the side as we were building kind of our careers up, and it kind of just took off from there.
No, that's dope. I'm actually curious, going back to kind of just the college years, right? And higher education. A lot of folks who potentially listen or maybe watching, some of them may still be in school, right? Maybe students. And me doing research, and you went to Woodbury, right? And I saw that you did an interview with them, and there was a quote that you said that really stuck out to me that I would love for you to kind of just touch on. And the quote is, "As a designer of color, I had a difficult time finding a mentor or a community that I could relate to. I found myself often feeling lonely when I was working in a firm because I was the only black and brown person in the office." I would love for you to speak to that, because I think what you're getting at is mentorship and finding community, and like finding a place where you feel embraced, right? So can you just touch on the importance of that for those who may be in that position right now?
Absolutely. I think it kind of connects back to just my discomfort and this feeling of loneliness at Seattle Prep. And I mean, even in college too, and not really having that person or entity that I could lean on for guidance or for other than my parents and kind of my family, but in a professional sense or an educational sense, I didn't really have someone that I could relate to that looked like me, or that came from the same sort of economic backgrounds or the cultural background that I had. And so And then even that continued on even in my professional career, like in architecture. When I took my first job, I felt like obligated to kind of not necessarily take a pay cut, but work for a mission-oriented architecture firm or something that was geared more towards the community, because I felt like that was missing in our community. And even so, I worked at Environmental Works, which is a nonprofit architecture firm here in Seattle, and they do great work. They do affordable housing, the design of affordable apartment buildings, and I really appreciated that sort of lens and that perspective that they came. But to Sonia's point, I still felt like I was kind of tokenized a little bit, and no one in particular, but just the fact of not having someone else around me that looked like me.
Yeah.
And so I made it my mission through La Union Studio when we started to try to find an opportunity or ways to mentor the next generation.
Yeah.
A lot of our work, we've done work with Sawhorse Revolution. They're a nonprofit architecture entity, and they run educational workshops for youth.
Okay.
I've been involved in some other programs through the AIA and Architects Without Borders that tried to find alternative avenues for architecture and exposure of architecture to people who may not otherwise know that. So I made it my mission, our personal mission to open up those avenues for others. And even in the businesses that we work with, the Social Teas, the Chabogs, the Baja Bistros, I think it's important to, have that representation aspect, and to really provide advocacy for people who are, doing their first project or working with their first architect. I think it's important to break down barriers and translate concepts and really make that accessible for people. So
that's real.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's good stuff.
So I'm kind of curious how why La Union, like the name.
The name.
Great question.
Yeah, I can go. So we started the business when we were still living at my parents' house. We were still working our W-2 jobs, and one of our friends, Bato from the Chinatown International District, they're a hair and salon, or they're flower and hair boutique, hit us up and was just like, hey, aren't you guys designers? Like, can you permit the space for us? Can you design it? Like, I don't know what to do. So we took on that project, and I don't even think we had a name at that point. It was just like, we were just taking it on. But La Union is a province that my parents are from in the Philippines. And so we felt like that name was really fitting at the time, because we did go on our first trip out there to visit family, launched La Union after that. And it just means unity, It means togetherness. It's beyond just Sergio and I. It's like when we grow, and we are growing, it becomes a culture.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's the important thing about branding too, right? Like it's got to be bigger than you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting though. I kind of want to stay on that topic of what I look at it as like networking across, kind of, right? Like it's like your friends reached out to you, and like how was that? If you could just take us back to those early days where, you're more than capable, but until someone actually says, "Hey, are you ready now?"
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like, what was that like to like finally take that on? And then like looking back, they're a major part of where you guys are at now, right?
Oh gosh, I think we owe a lot to our first clients. Shout out Bobby and Michael of Bato. They really trusted us and believed in us to help them, and in a way, they helped us. In lots of ways. We never thought we wanted to open a business. Entrepreneurship was never even a thought in my mind. I thought I was going to go the W-2 route, or grow and flourish in another firm. But I think there's something that we realized early on in working on Bato, and that was the gap and the void in representation and the lack of accessibility to architecture for people in our community. and we, as soon as we finished Bateau, we got, calls from Hood Famous, our friends Shara and Gio. We got calls from Finn, shout out Bao of Finn Vietnamese Coffee. Check it out if you guys haven't visited.
Okay.
And it's just amazing, like, how powerful just doing one project. All it takes is one person to believe in you, right?
Literally, that's all it takes.
And I think what was unique and beautiful about the Bateau experience was that a lot of what we did was just kind of setting the stage and creating a backdrop for Bateau and for Bobby and Michael. They're creatives themselves, and so we didn't want to, we wanted the space to feel like it was theirs,
Yeah.
And actually we want that to be the case for every project, where the clients themselves play a role in the design process. And so it becomes this sort of collaborative experience. Yes, we're professionals, and yes, we have a lot to bring to the table, but also we want the space to feel like their patrons can see themselves in the project too. So
that's big.
So I think that was the lesson learned from Bateau, and again, we owe them a lot to where we are today.
I just think it's dope because we live in a time now where I feel like you shouldn't overthink it and put yourself out there, because you just never know who may need what you got. Right. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And especially if you got value to provide. Absolutely. So that's good. That's definitely good.
So what were like the early steps that you guys took to, like, I guess, build it up after that?
That's a great question.
Yeah, like when stuff starts coming at you, like did you have systems in place, or like?
Oh, that's systems.
I, that's a good question, because I think there's a misconception too when people scale up and they're just moving. People only see the wins, but like, what would you say what that was like?
I mean, like I mentioned earlier, we were working full time. We were taking meetings, like we were hiding. We were taking quick lunches to take calls, and it was a lot of work, like just the hours that we put in, that people don't see. Like people just see the shiny things that we post on Instagram. But it was a lot of dedication and just believing in the advocacy for these small businesses, because a lot of our first clients were friends and families who were opening up their first brick and mortar. So I think we both took certain things from our day jobs. Like I was a project manager, I am a project manager. So I really understood like the design process, and Sergio's really good at like the technical side of things, like permitting and construction and design. And so we kind of just combined our forces and built something really powerful to where we've helped like dozens of small businesses open up their first space, or first and second spaces in the city.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely kind of very organic, at the beginning, and kind of operating on intuition and emotion. And then we got to a point where, we were fortunate to get a couple projects that allowed me to leave my day job, and Sonia held down the fort for a while. But even at that point, we still didn't have systems and processes in place, And so we, at some point we decided, let's get serious. Let's get more rigorous about how we operate as a business. And so we hired our business coach, who we're still working with. Shout out Young
and Maeve
from
Owners Club,
and Jamie of Owners Club, and they really emphasize the importance of operational rigor and systems and processes and dashboards to provide that transparency into your business. From a financial aspect to a marketing aspect to just all the operational aspects of running a business. And so, we didn't go to business school at all. And so that was something very new to us, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun building a business from the ground up. And, like you say, everyone sees the wins, but you don't see the losses.
No, that's why I think that's what's most important. It's the context, and I think in a day where it's like, there's just so much information out there, I think it's important for people to know, like, you can do whatever you want, whatever you put your mind to, but you should know, like, what comes with it and what may be required, So.
Yeah, I think that is important. Thank you guys for sharing that, because I feel like some people kind of hesitate to start because they expect it to be perfect in the beginning, but it's like you kind of got to go through that, and that's how you kind of like refine everything So thank you.
Yeah. And it's all about the journey. I think some people, and even myself early on was just like, what's the end goal, right? What do we want it to look like at the end, whether it's the project or whether it's our business as a whole. But I think what helps me sleep at night is just like the day to day, like, okay, I got through the day. I got through this list of things that need to get through.
Right.
And there's a new day tomorrow.
Yes.
And, you know, brick by brick is what my brother-in-law says. And he was very inspirational because he started his own business out of the Bay Area. It's a physical therapy. So we were able to kind of like see what he was doing and took the back seat, and Max, poke it to the max. And having those kind of entrepreneurial people in our network just was really inspiring and promising. Like, if they can do it, then we can definitely do it.
No, definitely. And I also feel like a lot of those things are like just universal, right? They're like formalities. You just have to kind of get certain ducks in a row so that you can go have fun and do what you really do really well. So that's good information. I am curious though, for those who may be aspiring to get into the architecture space and design space, like I said, from the outside looking in, I wouldn't know what it takes to do what you guys do, right? But what would you say is like one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the world of design and architecture that you think most folks just wouldn't know about, right? Like you said, everything looks shiny, looks nice and whatnot, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think a lot of people don't really know what architects do just in general. A lot of people think we still draw on blueprints. And those have been phased out since like the 70s and 80s. But that's okay. And I think it's honestly our own fault as designers and architects. It's our egos. We get so pompous, and the media feeds into it, and they put a lot of architects on the pedestal, which is okay. And it's not a bad thing, but I think that's a big misconception. I think a lot of people think there's a lot of math and a lot of science involved, but really architecture is kind of a blend of a lot of different disciplines. It's a blend of math, science, art, people, culture. And I think what makes a really successful project, at least for La Union Studio, is does the community see themselves in the project? Were they involved in kind of the planning and the design of the space? Does the finished product reflect the community that the building or the space is in? And I think, a lot of other architects may see success in a different light. You know, they may think, it's about how much money they made on the project, or how much press they got on the project. But for us, I think it's, did we help this business or homeowner achieve their goals, and does it look beautiful?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And what's crazy about the art aspect, at least, like you don't really know what's going to resonate, right, or what's going to connect and when it will connect, right? Because you guys are creating things that are going to last for a long time, and it may like really connect with someone at a different point. So. That's the beautiful thing about it.
And that's the beauty of like architecture and a building, right? There's layers of complexity to a building. When a small business opens their space, it may look one way, but in 5-10 years, it could look a whole different way. And that's the sort of organic beauty of what architecture can provide for a small business.
Yeah, that's real.
I also want to ask you guys. Well, even like researching the business, seeing it, you guys say relationship focused. So can you guys speak to how important like relationships are?
Yeah, I was going to go there in regards to like the number one thing that we do as designers is listen, because I feel like sometimes like the ego comes in and people are just like, I'm just going to design. It's like a blank canvas. I'm just going to put what I like and what I know is going to look good. But for us, it's the relationships with the business owners that we really value. I mean, we're friends, and we're like, at the end of the projects, we're giving hugs, and we're like invited to things. So it gets really deep, like the relationships that we build with our clients. And like I mentioned earlier, like listening to their story, like the why they got started, how they got started, A lot of the small businesses are cultural tastemakers, like Hood Famous, like Bato, like Finn, Che Boggs, Baja. They all have a cultural element to all of their products and the services they provide. And so we like to use our platform as a way to uplift and elevate their story. And that's through the personal connections that we make. Because otherwise, I mean, how else would we learn about, the different ways we can use architecture as a medium and their space as a canvas, right?
I mean, even, the Hood Famous project in particular, Cher and Gio would have us over at their house for like 3 hours. They would feed us, and we'd have meeting, design meeting, design charrettes like in the middle of dinner. So, it's just kind of that beauty that you find in those moments with people that really help and inform the design process.
Yeah. It takes time.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think another misconception is that people think that these projects take, 2 weeks, a month.
Yeah. It sounds like when artists are making albums, kind of.
Right.
Like some artists take forever to make an album.
Right.
But it comes out amazing.
Right.
So.
We're still waiting on Frank Ocean now.
Yeah. I gave up on him. I'm not gonna lie. I gave up.
Yeah, and a part of our platform on social is really showcasing the process, because when you see architecture or interior design, it's like the finished, beautiful, curated, final completion photos. You don't really get to see the nitty gritty of like the permitting process, like picking out the contractor, like all the different steps that it takes to build the space. And so we would definitely want to use, our platform to showcase that there are steps to take to get us here to serve you the food when the space opens.
Yeah, and I'm actually curious. I was reading up on you guys, and one of the terms that was used to describe kind of the value you guys bring is you demystify the process, right? You're talking about permits and things of that nature. And I feel like that is a roadblock for a lot of small business owners, especially like underrepresented BIPOC owners who already got a bunch of other stuff they're dealing with. Right. And, they probably weren't privy to a lot of this stuff. Right. You know what I mean? Can you just talk a little bit about like how you've seen that become effective for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's, you hit it on the head. And in addition to that, there's a lot of distrust in systems that are in place, right? In government agencies, in bureaucracies. And so we're here to help navigate that in a genuine way, in a way that makes it more fun for our clients and less stressful. Because those things are really, they're checks and balances to make our neighborhood safer, but also they're huge barriers. Seattle is a city that is errs on the side of caution, with respect to development and building and just making sure that processes are inclusive. But sometimes that ends up, to the mom and pop shop who's just trying to make ends meet and open up a market or a restaurant. Sometimes that becomes a barrier. And so we've seen that. And so how can we navigate that and balance all the sort of moving parts to a project and help achieve their goals? And a lot of what we do is not just relationship building with our clients, but it's with the contractors involved or the engineers that we need to hire to design the HVAC systems, or I can't think of anything else, but it's a lot of relationship building beyond just working with our clients. And so we try to help put things in place and balance all the moving parts for our clients.
No, for sure.
Yeah. I was going to also mention the importance of plain language because architecture and design can get really technical. And there's a lot of jargon and there's a lot of just like barriers in place, bureaucracies that, like you mentioned, we just want our clients to run their business. We like to say that we kind of help them do the hard stuff so that they can run their business and push their products and do what they need to do to make money. And plain language is big because we're translating like the technical details around why they need certain mechanical systems or why they can't have certain plumbing fixtures and things like that. Or even just getting through the King County public health process that goes hand in hand in what we do. So it's fun for us. I mean, I don't mind navigating it, and, educating our clients and sharing and making sure that they're aware of all the different things, as it relates to, the financial implications of hiring a contractor, what the costs are. Are these typical costs, or is the contractor like playing you,
Yeah.
So we like to be that gut check for them, and we're happy to do it.
That's dope. Off the top of your head, can you recall like how many different spots you've been a part of?
Ooh.
Like, do you just walk by? Like, oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah. But one of the things we love to do is, when family and friends from out of town come visit, we'll take them on a little union tour, and I think it's a great way to act as ambassadors to our city, and
for sure.
really celebrate the vibrancy and the diversity of the people and the food and the culture is here. Seattle. A lot of people think Seattle is just, this tech hub, and it's predominantly white, and it rains a lot and all that. But I think with us, we try to showcase the colorful side of Seattle, and so off the top of our head, I mean,
like a dozen.
I want to say a dozen, at least a dozen restaurants or food service. I mean, we also do residential work, so we've done some houses, some remodels and such and things like that. But I think what's fun for us is the commercial side of things, the restaurants, the office spaces, because you really get to invite the public to play a role and to take part in that process.
Yeah, no, it's a moment. I don't know. Me personally, I look at it from like a revolutionary standpoint. I do feel like you guys are revolutionary in a way.
Oh man, I appreciate it.
For sure.
Definitely.
When you throw those words out there, people are like, oh, I'm like, no, seriously though. Like, I think when you think, because like we're in the now, so it may not feel like that, but when you think about it 20 years from now and you see the way things are looking and the way things are normalized, that's revolutionary.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I wanted to ask you guys, like, if I was a aspiring architect, designer, and I wanted to get into the field, like, what would you guys pretty much tell me, like, for advice?
Exposure is it. I mean, any type of exposure you can get in the industry of design, whether it's an architecture firm, interior design.
Or even, I was told, I found architecture kind of later on, but I was always told that as an architect, it's valuable to go work for a contractor or for a construction company, because you really learn how things get put together, how things are made, how things are constructed and manifested. So I would offer that to someone too.
Yeah, I think there's always there's the theoretical side of architecture where you get to learn about art history and how architecture evolved into what it is now, and then there's like the design today and what's trending, and then there's also like what Sergio mentioned, the side of building, like the industry of construction, and a lot of the times those are very disparate. Like they always kind of just hang out with each other by themselves, but if you're able to get that connection throughout all of them, I think you are like powerhouse designer.
Yeah, and I would also say start small. A scale of a furniture piece or an art piece. I think there's a design aspect in creating something. Even this, somebody thought how to make this.
Right.
And we're seeing this with guys like Michael Bennett. I don't know if you're familiar. He's been his foray into architecture. It's
cooking.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
it's awesome to see.
Yeah.
And he's kind of starting at the scale of furniture or small scale spaces. And so I think that's always a great starting point for people. But we're trying to change and introduce architecture to the next generation earlier, because a lot of times young people don't even know that architecture is a possibility until they get to college. Like myself, I didn't even know that you can be an architect and impact your community in that way until later on. Until Sonia was doing architecture.
And then I also think if you're not able to get into the industry, just the built environment is around you every day. So observation is huge for us too, like just studying the built environment, lighting fixtures, how things are put together, because when you're in like not a nice space, or when you're in a really beautiful space, like the way it makes you feel, like the intuition a person has about entering like this beautiful space, like what is it about it that you can dissect and actually figure out how to make or replicate that
Yeah.
or take that as inspiration.
Yeah. Sounds like you got to just be immersed in it,
Mhm.
all different areas.
And I definitely want to praise you guys because I feel like all the businesses you guys work with actually do like walk away with something, and they're like, I kind of feel like I know what kind of goes on with like design and architecture. So definitely,
Thank you.
I just thought about
That's
that.
what we
That was
hope.
the
We
last
hope.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
real. That's real. I did want to kind of touch on one thing I always like to touch on with guests is just learning more about kind of the balance. Most people who come up here, obviously, they're working hard and they're busy, but you know, the work-life balance, and obviously, you guys being married and being life partners. I'm curious, like, when it comes to the work-life balance, like, how's that been in terms of like who tells who, like, hey, we need to chill, like, you know what I mean? Because you guys are both ambitious and working, so.
Right.
How does that look for you guys, or how do you balance it?
Well, I've said this in the past, but I just say yes.
I think we both know our strengths. Like over time, you know, like in working together in a professional setting is very different. I mean, I think we're both creative naturally, but we definitely know our strengths. And
Yeah.
so we're able to lean on each other when we don't have an answer to a question or need that support.
Yeah.
So that's really key. I think early on we were able to identify like we're both good designers. I love kind of curating and creating like the mood, the vibe, material finishes and fixtures and all that stuff. And Sergio's like a powerhouse draft designer. He's good at drafting. He can
Yeah.
make my ideas into like how you actually physically build it. Because I'm
Yeah.
usually just like, you know, just make it look
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. Like the vision, you got the vision.
Right.
Yeah. Got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point to bring up about the boundaries or lack of boundaries, especially us just being together in life. You know, every day is a challenge. Every day is a commitment to supporting each other. You know, sometimes there are times where we go at it, and she's like, "No, it has to be this way," and I'm like, "All right." But no, I think you know, to Sonia's point, I think it's about recognizing each other's strengths and weaknesses and how we can balance each other. You know, in those moments of challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were working from home for the last 5 years
Yeah.
through COVID and
Yeah.
just like creating a routine that works for us and understanding like our optimal times of how we work and when we work, the time of the day, you know.
Yeah.
And now that we can separate it with having our own office space, I think it's like now we're up, we're getting ready to go to work.
Yeah,
Like it's fun now. Before
Yeah.
it's like dragging our feet trying to get it.
How do you guys find like time to like unplug from the work? I guess it's the second part to the question.
I mean, like literally we were talking about work on the way here. We're like, so about that project, like, did you
Yeah.
get to that email? Things like that. And I think now it's a part of our life. Like we don't really have weekly meetings about projects because it's kind of just integrated. And we kind of read each other's minds in a sense. But I think we're working on that personally. Like I would love to have a more creative outlet outside of architecture and design and building the business. And that, you know, it's not enough hours in a day, I guess, but in prioritizing myself and self-care, I'm trying to do that this year for sure.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I think also, to my point, it just every day is a challenge, right? And I think lately we've been better at setting boundaries on the weekends and making sure that we physically turn off work. I think getting up every day to go to a physical office space is going to help, I think, because this was week 1 of us doing that. And actually, when we came home, we actually didn't work in the evenings when before we were working at home.
Yeah, separate the two.
Yeah, we're like, we'll just get to it after dinner. Like, just before bed. Like, let me just do this real quick.
No, that's for real. No, I just bring that up because I think it is important to put it out there. Like, you got to have a balance, right? Like, you can't be grinding all the time.
Yeah.
Even though you want to. It's not about what you want all the time, though.
Yeah. I think we live through travel, you know. Travel has been kind of our remedy to the stressful, busy life. And so we try to, whether it's a small trip or a large trip, I think we just try to segment our year or our quarter with those moments of reprieve and freedom, and joy, and
it's
laughter.
important.
Yeah, and inspiration. I mean,
Right.
travel informs a lot of our design process.
Oh, for sure.
And
I bet.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I kind of want to ask too, like if I was a client, like what would you guys demand from me? I guess as for like to get ready to start a project.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think a willingness to participate and an openness to collaborate. I think unless there's a client who really just doesn't have the time or capacity and they just want us to kind of take the lead, that's totally fine. But we love when our clients take part in the process. And so, for example, a restaurant project typically will ask the client to deliver us an equipment list, especially if it's like cooking equipment or, all the back of house stuff. That takes up a lot of space. So that we're really trying to take inventory of what the client comes to the table with, like physically, the physical constraints, and then everything else. How can we craft a design that's both beautiful and kind of integrates some of their story and their cultural aspects. And so for a residential project, for example, like a brand new house, we'll typically ask them for a survey. We're getting kind of technical here, but a survey of the property so that we know all of the boundaries and constraints that we're working within.
Yeah.
So, and we'll typically share those expectations at the beginning so that the client is not left, they know what they need to kind of step up and provide for us.
Yeah, not my favorite clients, but the clients that are, who do participate are ones that come with like inspiration images or pictures of things that they like or things that are reminiscent of their culture that they want to incorporate into the design. And it doesn't have to be like a picture of a space, it could be like a picture of the beach that they grew up on or things that are nostalgic to them, because that informs like our color palette, the materials that we pick. So it's all part of the story. And so we love like the mood boards when clients say like, okay, I saw this, I really want this, or this is a picture of my mom's kitchen. Like, I don't know, make it look nice.
It's a two-way street.
Right. A lot of times too, we'll also ask, just from a very technical standpoint, we'll ask the clients for a budget, how much are they willing to, what's their level of comfort with their financial commitment to the project? And a lot of times, especially working with our community, budgets are tight, and money is tight. And so, but that opens the door up for more creativity. How can we make the best use of the design with the limited resources that we have?
Like how do we make the biggest visual impact with like a very small design budget? Because in the nitty gritty of how the costs get broken up, it's usually spent on the construction costs, mechanical, the heating and cooling of the space, electrical, all the lights that we need, and then plumbing and maybe some structural stuff. And then so it leaves like a little bit of money for design and all the finishes. And so we just kind of figure out the ways we can pack the biggest punch with what we have.
Got it.
Nice.
But it keeps you on your toes too, right?
It does.
Yeah, I mean, I would love like a project that is, unlimited in funds, and I'm sure there are clients like we look at Las Vegas, for example, and how gaudy all the designs are. Like everything's has a treatment on it. But then you can't really focus your eyes on a design. Like for our projects, like you can kind of figure out where we were being very intentional and having kind of like your Instagram moments or your Pinterest moments. So that's where we kind of like focus a lot of that.
Gotcha. I love it, man. I love it. Man. You guys been dropping gems.
For real. Yeah.
It's just flowing, though. It's just flowing, man. Well, I know you guys are busy as well, but before we do get you guys out of here, I always ask every guest this question. What excites you for the future? Like, it could be near, it could be far, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, something that we're super excited for, at least in the immediate future, is our space and how, and not just the space for our team, but the space for the community. How can we leverage that and use that as a resource to both educate the community about architecture and design and how impactful that can be, but also to convene certain groups of people or certain create circles of conversation and dialogue around what we can do as designers, or even just the average person in your community. You too can contribute to how your neighborhood is shaped and formed. And so we're trying to get this off the ground, but we love to launch like an event series where we're convening folks of different sectors and different disciplines, folks like yourself.
Oh, bro, I got something for you, bro.
Yeah. Folks
Yeah.
like yourself to, convene in a space where ideas are shared, goals are shared, and it's, we hope it's going to be a beautiful thing.
I think for us, at least in the near term, is really creating an environment, a city that's really livable for people like us. I mean, you always hear about like gentrification, and we're blessed to be able to, be back in the South End. But how do we create, spaces for businesses, and in working with the city, having those conversations about commercial affordability is huge for us. So we definitely want to, be that liaison to have those conversations between the city, between developers, between contractors, between other designers who really make that footprint and have, your hands all over the city.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Wow.
Future looks bright. And you know what's crazy about it is, outside of just being good at the work you do, you start to realize the responsibility that comes with it, right? Like even in ourselves, like it started off just being a show and being a program, and then the responsibility kind of kicks in when you're like, oh, okay, well, there's not really many telling these stories, right? So I'm excited for the future for you guys. It's going to be dope.
Definitely. Also, where can people contact you guys? Social media, website?
Oh, yeah.
Feel free to drop those.
Yeah. We're pretty active on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, so that's at La Union Studio. We also have a website, www.launionstudio.com. Is there anything else? We have a newsletter, so subscribe to our newsletter that we have up and running. We have an intern from the UW who helps us run that. She's awesome, Ari.
Dope.
And like we mentioned, we'll have the series hopefully launching in the next couple, maybe month or so.
Okay.
We'd love to have you guys in our space.
Yeah, drop by our space in Mount Baker, right by Franklin.
Yes.
Come visit us and come see the new space.
Yes, definitely. I can't wait.
Definitely.
I can't wait.
Definitely.
Now, we ask every guest this question to cap things off, and both you guys can answer this. So if you can, what's one word to describe what keeps you on the up and up, and why?
Ooh. That's hard. One word.
Only one.
Maybe you could explain it too.
I think for me, I'm going to go with culture. And I think culture is a strong word that it's hard to really articulate, right? But you can feel it, and you know it when you see it, and when it's around you. And so I wake up every day thinking about how we can not only reflect the culture that's in our communities, but how we can leverage that as leverage that to shape the neighborhoods that we continue to live in, operate in.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mine's tied to that. And I don't know if this is a good answer, but identity is huge. I think it ties into culture, and I think every day I myself am getting to know myself. So that's fun, and that's part of life. And so I think understanding who I am and where I come from, I think being Filipino American is very unique and very different. And just going back to the Philippines as an adult, I'm able to see the quantum leap that my parents, established these roots in Seattle, and me being a business owner and having the influence that I do have gets me up in the morning. And I think, what you mentioned about, you don't realize the impact you're making until you look back and you're like, oh my God, we help so many businesses and we design so many places, that identity for myself and also identity for our clients and the people that we engage with, because it's hard being brown and, brown and black in Seattle.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, you have to know your community. It's very niche.
Yeah.
If you just come visit, you're like, Seattle's hella white. Like,
Yeah.
you don't even know
Yeah.
until you like find the community and spaces. So I hope that we can be kind of that safe and inclusive space. And as we open up our studio to the public and our community.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Man, I'm excited, man. Thank you guys for
Thank
being
you
here.
so
again.
much.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, no,
Honor.
this was dope. We wish you guys much success moving forward, obviously, with everything you got coming. You guys support with us here at the Up and Up always as well.
Always. Yep.
And with that being said, I think it's safe to say La Union Studio, Sergio, Sonia are officially members of the Up and Up. Can we get a round of
Yeah.
applause?
Thank you.
man?
Honored to be.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
To continue supporting the podcast and the entire Up and Up movement, be sure to rate, review, like, and subscribe.
As well as follow us at _the Up and Up on all social media platforms to stay connected with everything the Up and Up has coming your way.
Thanks for listening, and until the next one.
Keep it on the Up and Up.